My mom pretended to homeschool me so no one would notice I'd gone missing for 2 years. I didn't know I'd gone missing until I was 16. People say memory works like a photo album, that you can flip through the past page by page and trace the lines that made you who you are. But for me, there are entire years missing. No photographs, no school portraits, just a thick, gray fog where middle school should have been. I only figured it out when I tried to apply for a learner's permit. The clerk at the DMV said I needed my 8th grade records to prove I'd completed the minimum education requirement. My mom smiled, said we homeschooled. The clerk asked for curriculum logs. My mom got defensive, said she'd take care of it. That was the first crack. Later that night, I went digging through our hallway closet for old assignments. Test scores. Anything. Nothing. No binders. No workbooks. No dated notebooks. Just one box labeled art projects. Inside were drawings, strange, repetitive ones. Houses with no doors. People with excess for eyes. The same scene over and over, a girl standing in a room staring at a locked door. I thought it was just a weird phase I went through. But I don't remember drawing them. I asked my mom again about homeschool. She got cold. Said I wasn't ready for the stress of school back then. Said I had emotional breakdowns and she had to protect me from the system. I asked her if I had any school friends during those years. She said no. Said I didn't want any. I asked her where we lived back then. She paused. Then she said here, of course. Where else? That night, I waited until she fell asleep and searched her bedroom. I found a folder of documents under a floorboard in her closet. Inside were old mail records, medical forms, a receipt for an apartment lease in another town. The lease started the week I turned 11 and ended 2 years later. I'd never heard of the address. So I went. It was a sleepy town about 90 miles away. Population 4,000. One diner, one gas station, and a boarded-up movie theater with peeling posters still taped to the glass. I parked on the street and walked to the address from the lease. It was an apartment complex. Run down but still standing. Unit 2B. I knocked. A woman answered, gray hair, thick glasses, floral robe. I asked if she remembered who lived there before. She tilted her head. Was it a mother and daughter? My throat tightened. You remember them? She nodded slowly. Strange pair. The mom was quiet. The daughter, well, she didn't come outside much. Always looked scared. Big eyes. Real quiet. I asked if she remembered my name. She said no, but I remember the girl had a scar. Right below the chin. Like a crescent moon. I have that scar. I asked her if anything strange happened while we lived there. She said once the girl ran out into the parking lot screaming. Middle of the night. The mom dragged her back in. Next day, there was police tape for a few hours. Then nothing. I asked if the police ever arrested anyone. She said not that I saw, but they came back a week later. With shovels. I asked what they were digging for. She said, you tell me. Back home, I confronted my mom. I told her I knew about the other town. The missing years. The police tape. She didn't get angry. She got scared. I told them you were unstable, she whispered. I told them you ran away. But they kept digging. Looking. Looking for what? I asked. She just shook her head. I pressed harder. Demanded answers. Threatened to go back to the police. Then she told me something I can't unhear. I saved you, she said. They were going to take you. All of them. I had to keep you safe. I asked who she meant. The police? She said no. The girls. The ones before you. She looked right through me when she said it. Like I wasn't even there. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. I stayed up Googling every variation of the town's name I could think of. Old news stories. Obituaries. Police records. Missing persons. And then I found something. A missing girl from 2005, 2 years before I was born. Her name was Hannah Mitchell. 11 years old. Disappeared on her way home from school. Last seen in that same town. Her photo made my stomach twist. Dark hair, pale skin, eyes that looked just like mine. Under the article was a quote from the lead detective. Still no signs of struggle, no suspects. The apartment complex residents didn't report anything unusual. The date of her disappearance? The same week my mom's lease began. I printed everything. News clippings, lease records, even photos from Google Maps. Took it to my therapist, Dr. Ching. I had only been seeing her for a few months and most of our sessions had been about general anxiety. She knew my mom was overbearing, but I hadn't told her everything. Until now. I laid the files across the table and said, I don't think I'm who I think I am. She listened quietly. Asked me careful questions. Did I have a birth certificate? Only a copy, no original. Did I remember any extended family? None I'd met in person. Did my mom ever talk about a pregnancy or birth? No photos. No stories. Then she asked something that made my blood run cold. Has your mom ever taken you to a doctor? I thought about it. Tried to remember a checkup. A dentist. A vision test. Nothing. Dr. Cheng gently placed her hand on the folder. I don't want to scare you, but I think it's time we contact the authorities. Carefully, I asked her what she thought happened. She said, I think it's possible your mother isn't your biological parent, that you may have been abducted as a child. The detective she referred me to was named Ramirez. He specialized in missing persons and cold cases. When I first met him, I handed him the same folder. He took it seriously. Within a week, he'd gotten warrants to pull my DNA against the National Missing Children database. The wait was excruciating. Every time I saw my mom during that period, I flinched when she hugged me. She acted normal, like nothing was wrong, like we weren't on the edge of something massive. Then one day, she didn't come home. I called. No answer. I drove to her job. They said she hadn't been in that day. Ramirez called me that night. She's gone, he said. Packed a suitcase, took out cash, disabled her phone. She's running. That's when I knew it was true. The DNA results came back 2 days later. My real name wasn't the one I'd been using for 16 years. It was Jessica Rose Holbrook, missing since 2009, taken from a playground in St. Louis. There was a flyer. I looked smaller, but it was me. The scar under my chin? Apparently from a bike accident, according to the report. The one I never remembered. I'd been 6 years old. They found my mom 2 weeks later, hiding in a women's shelter in Nevada. She dyed her hair, changed her name. They arrested her for felony child abduction, obstruction of justice, and forgery of state documents. In court, she claimed she was rescuing me, that my birth parents had abused me, that she'd seen the signs and had to intervene. There was no record of any abuse. No reports. No custody battles. The judge wasn't convinced. She was sentenced to 25 years. They tracked down my birth family. My real parents, they had never stopped looking. My mother, my biological mother, collapsed when she saw me. She kept whispering, "You're here. You're here." But I didn't feel like I was. They brought out photo albums, home videos, a pink stuffed cat I apparently loved. I didn't remember any of it. None of it felt real. It's been 4 months since the trial ended. I'm living with my biological parents now in a suburb I don't recognize. They mean well, but it's like living with strangers. Sometimes I still call the woman who raised me Mom in my head. Sometimes I still miss her. Even though she stole me. Even though she lied. Even though she never let me be anything but hers. I asked Ramirez once when it was all wrapping up if he thought my case was unique. He shook his head. No, he said. This happens more often than people want to admit. Usually someone close. Usually someone desperate. He paused before adding, "You were lucky." I didn't feel lucky. Not then. But maybe someday I will. I dropped the phone. Not just because of what I heard, but because the voice, my voice, had whispered something only I could know. Something I hadn't said out loud in years. It was the name I used to give my imaginary friend when I was little. A name I'd scrawled once in the margins of an old notebook and then never repeated. I felt my chest tighten. That voice hadn't just sounded like me. It knew me. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed up scouring every inch of the house, the cellar, the yard. I found no signs of anyone else. No devices. No hidden speakers. No footprints. But things were changing. Small things. The clock started ticking backwards. I'm not joking, at 2:36 a.m. I watched the kitchen clock move in reverse for a full minute before it corrected itself. A family photo on the hallway wall shifted. My father, once in the middle, now stood off to the side, nearly cropped out entirely. My mom's face looked grayer, her smile tighter. My own eyes were slightly off. It was like the house was slowly forgetting who we were, or rewriting it. I went to the courthouse the next day, pulled public records. Anything I could find about the house, my parents, even my own birth certificate. Something didn't add up. According to the system, my mother was listed as unmarried. My father was never recorded as living at our address. There was no marriage certificate, no tax records, no medical history past 2003. It was like he had never existed. Except he did. I remember him. Don't I? That night, I found something behind the cellar wall. A loose panel, thin as cardboard, hiding a second compartment filled with moldy file folders. Inside, dozens of school assignments, childhood drawings, report cards, but none of them were mine. Different names, different kids, some scribbled out, some dated decades ago. At the bottom, a yellowing Polaroid. A boy, my age, or close, smiling in front of a fireplace. He looked just like me, too much like me. I brought the photo to a local historian who specialized in rural property archives. She said the house used to be part of a commune in the 1970s, a small one, off-grid, unregistered. There were rumors of missing persons, identity experiments, psycho-spiritual repatterning. She didn't know what that meant but said the group disbanded after a fire. The only survivor listed? A woman named Carol. My mother's real name is Caroline. I left without saying another word. When I got back to the house, something was waiting on the porch. A cassette tape. No label. I dug out an old player from the attic and pressed play. At first, static. Then the sound of breathing. Then a voice, my mother's, talking gently to someone. Coaxing them. Don't cry, baby. We're almost there. Just a little more time and you'll be ready. A child's voice responded. And it wasn't mine. It was the same voice I'd heard on the phone. The same as the boy in the Polaroid. He said, "Do I get to be real this time?" Then silence. That night, I dreamed of the basement. Only it wasn't our basement anymore. It was endless. Walls covered in mirrors. Each reflection a version of me. Some older. Some younger. Some missing parts. One of them smiled. Said, "You're not the first." I woke up on the floor, holding the Polaroid. But it wasn't blank anymore. The boy's face had been scratched out. Mine was drawn over it. In my mother's handwriting. "You came back wrong." I didn't go back inside for hours. I sat on the porch, staring at the photo, half hoping the handwriting would fade, that I imagined it. But the message was still there. "You came back wrong." When I finally stepped through the front door, the house had changed again. Subtly but unmistakably. The hallway mirror was gone. A painting I didn't recognize of a house burning in a field now hung in its place. The light switches were reversed. Up was off. Down was on. My bedroom door had been repainted. I walked through the house like a stranger, touching things I once knew, trying to anchor myself. The couch, the kitchen counter, the spot on the wall where I'd measured my height every year. The pencil marks were gone, scrubbed clean, and above the empty stretch of wall, written in marker. "You were taller before." I called Eliza. I don't know why. I hadn't spoken to her in 2 years, but something in me needed a voice that felt real. When she picked up, her voice cracked like she hadn't spoken in days. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said. "I think I'm losing my mind," I whispered. "No," she said. "It's the house. It's doing it again." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean again?" Eliza sighed. "You're not the first version of you to call me." I almost dropped the phone. "There was another you. About a year ago. Said the same things. That your dad had vanished. That the house was changing. That your mother wasn't who she said she was." I wanted to scream. "What did he do?" "He left. Drove to the reservoir. Said he had to remember what came before." "What came before what?" "I don't know. He never called again." I hung up. I didn't want to hear any more. The reservoir was about an hour outside town. I drove there without thinking. Halfway there, my vision blurred. Road signs twisted. Trees looked too still. I passed the same red truck 3 times, going the opposite direction. When I reached the reservoir, it was dry. Empty. Except for the rusting remains of something buried in the mud, a car, half submerged. Familiar. It was my father's. The license plate was still intact. Inside the vehicle was a single object on the dashboard. A framed family photo. But in this one, my face had been replaced. The boy beside my mother was someone else entirely. Same build. Same age. Different eyes. And behind them, in the trees, I swear something moved. Tall. Pale. Watching. I didn't stay long. When I got home, the front door was wide open. Every light in the house was on. I stepped inside and everything had been rearranged. Furniture moved. Photos swapped out. Family albums replaced with blank journals full of ink blots and half-finished drawings of people with too many limbs. In the living room, my mother sat in her old chair, smiling. Next to her was me. Another me. Same clothes. Same face. But his eyes, those weren't mine. They were empty. Reflective. Like mirrors. My mother stroked his hair like a pet. "You see," she said. "This one listens. This one doesn't ask questions." The other me turned and smiled. "You were always the wrong one." I ran. Out the back door. Into the woods. Branches slapped my face. I didn't care. I just ran. Somewhere deep in those trees, I stopped. Bent over. Vomited. When I looked up, I saw it again. The tall thing from the reservoir. It didn't move. Just stood between 2 trees. Unblinking. Observing. Then it raised one long finger and pointed behind me. I turned. My childhood home was burning. Flames licked the sky. Screams echoed from inside. But I didn't move. Not toward it. Not away. Because in that moment I remembered. The fire. From the records. From the commune. It didn't happen before. It was now. Or always. I don't know where I'm writing this from. It looks like a motel. Or maybe a hospital. No one speaks. But they check on me constantly. One nurse said I was found in the woods holding a Polaroid. Burned. They think I was a squatter. Delusional. But they don't know the truth. They don't know that every time I close my eyes, I see that house again, only it's not just a house. It's all of them. Layered on top of each other like film negatives. Fading in and out. And always at the center, my mother. Smiling. Saying, "You came back wrong." And maybe she's right. Because I don't remember who I was before that house. Or if I ever left at all.